You know, some people are just destined to be the poor one in the family, he said, grinning. That's when I realized I wasn't his brother anymore. I was his punchline. Me and my brother used to share everything, our toys, our dumb little jokes, even the big dreams we had for down the road. I was the quiet one, the steady one. He was always louder, more sure of himself. If you'd told me back then that one day we'd hardly be talking, like strangers almost, I'd have laughed in your face. But thinking on it now, I guess the signs were always there. Little things I ignored. He'd toss out a sharp remark now and then, or give a compliment that felt more like a jab. I brushed it off every time, never figured it meant much. Not until last month, when Patrick went and embarrassed me in front of his buddies. That night changed everything. But let me rewind a bit. I run a small landscaping outfit, not fancy, but it's mine. Started it up 5 years ago after walking away from a soul-crushing job in some office. It's tough work, but I like it. There's something real satisfying about turning a patch of nothing into a garden someone's proud of. Ain't flashy, but I sleep easy knowing I've built something honest with my own hands. Patrick, though, he went the opposite way. He's always been the show-off type, loves talking up his big-shot finance job, his fancy apartment, his getaways to Cabo. And hey, good for him. I never wanted what he had. His lifestyle never made me jealous. I was content with my simpler kind of life. At least, I thought I was, until Patrick made me feel like I ought to be embarrassed by it. It happened at a family dinner. One of those rare nights where we all got together, me, Patrick, our mom Pamela, and a few of Patrick's buddies at Mom's place. Patrick brought his friends along, which didn't surprise me. He loved an audience. They were the sort who wore loafers without socks and said things like synergy with a straight face. I didn't really fit in with them, but I wasn't there to start trouble. I just wanted to spend some time with Mom and call it a night. But the first warning sign came not long after I walked in. Patrick introduced me to his crew in this jokey, half-mocking way. "This is my little brother, Herbert," he said, with a smirk. Let's just say he's more of a hands-on kind of guy. They all laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd heard all week. I just gave a tight smile and let it go. No big deal. I've gotten used to swallowing that kind of stuff. But as the evening rolled on, his jabs got meaner. "So, Herbert," he said real loud, cutting me off while I was mid-sentence, "how's the landscaping biz? Still breaking your back for peanuts?" His friends snorted, and one of them chimed in, "Man, I could never do manual labor. My back would give out in a week." I laughed a little, like it didn't sting, telling myself they didn't mean anything by it. "It's going well," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Just landed a big contract with a new client." Patrick raised an eyebrow like he didn't buy it. "Oh yeah? What is it this time? Another suburban lawn makeover? Or are you finally working on something real?" The room cracked up again. My stomach twisted, but I kept on smiling like it didn't get to me. "It's actually a corporate campus redesign," I said. "Pretty big deal for me." For a second, I saw something flicker across Patrick's face, maybe surprise, but then he smirked and said, "Well, let's hope they pay you on time. I hear small businesses are always running on fumes." At that point, I had my fork clenched so tight my knuckles went pale. Still, I didn't say a word. What was the use in fighting back? Things really went off the rails when dessert showed up. Patrick, loving all the attention, figured it was story time. He raised his wine glass and said, nodding toward me, "Herbert once told me he wanted to be a millionaire by 30. Remember that, bro?" I froze. I had said that when I was 16. It was a kid's dream, something I barely remembered. But he sure hadn't forgotten. "Well," Patrick went on, laughing, "I guess life had other plans, huh? But hey, at least you're doing what you love, right?" His friends burst out laughing. One even slapped Patrick on the back and said, "You're brutal, man." I looked at Mom, hoping she'd step in, say something, anything, but she just gave me this weak, uncomfortable smile. Like she didn't want to pick a side. Like she didn't want to mess up the mood. That's when Patrick dropped the hammer. He said, still grinning, "some people are just meant to be the poor one in the family. Nothing wrong with that, Herbert. Somebody's got to balance things out, right?" I wish I could tell you I stood up and gave some powerful speech about pride and hard work. But I didn't. I just sat there, face burning, while the room laughed around me. I felt small. Like a joke. Like I was the guy everyone humored, the charity case. After a minute, I stood up, mumbled something about heading home, and walked out. Didn't even say goodbye to Mom. Just climbed in my truck and started driving. All the way home, my thoughts were spinning. Was this who Patrick had always been? Had I just refused to see it? Or had his success turned him into this smug, condescending ass? By the time I pulled into my driveway, the anger had burned off. I wasn't mad anymore. I was just done. Done trying to earn his approval. I was done pretending we had some tight brotherly bond. Done letting him step all over me like I didn't matter. That night, I made up my mind. I was cutting Patrick out of my life. No big speech, no dramatic showdown, just quiet. If he couldn't show me a little respect, then he didn't deserve a second more of my time or energy. What I didn't realize back then was just how much Patrick actually needed me, and how fast he'd come to regret burning that bridge. After that dinner, I went completely silent on him. No texts, no calls, no swinging by Mom's house if I knew he might be there. I didn't send some long wear-through message. I just stopped showing up. At first, I figured he wouldn't even notice. Patrick was always surrounded by people, friends, coworkers, whatever girlfriend he was dating that month. Why would he miss his loser brother? But he noticed. Oh yeah, he definitely noticed. That first week, he sent a couple of texts. Hey, you good? Haven't heard from you. Then, are you seriously mad about that dinner? Don't be such a baby. I ignored him. Figured he'd get bored and move on. But the messages kept coming, and they started to get mean. Wow, so this is how you're gonna be? Pathetic. If you can't handle a little teasing, maybe you're not cut out for the real world. By the third week, the tone changed again. The insults turned into guilt trips. Mom's upset you're being distant. She doesn't deserve this. You're acting like a selfish, ungrateful brat. I've done more for you than you even know. That last part made me laugh, quietly, bitterly. Patrick had never done more for me. If anything, I'd spent years walking on eggshells, trying to keep things smooth between us, always the one trying to patch things up, make him feel big. Now that I wasn't playing the role, he was falling apart. But while he was unraveling, something kind of amazing happened. I started doing better than ever. I threw myself into my work like a man on a mission. Picked up 3 new clients, including that corporate campus job Patrick had mocked. It ended up being my biggest project yet. When it was done, the company sent me a handwritten thank you card and a bonus check. I used that bonus to finally buy myself a new truck, the same kind Patrick once said I couldn't afford. And yeah, I'll admit it, the first time I sat behind the wheel, I thought about texting him a picture, just to rub it in. But then I realized I didn't care anymore. He wasn't worth it. That's when Mom called. Herbert, you need to talk to Patrick, she said, her voice thick with that classic mom guilt. Why? I asked, already knowing this wasn't going to be about me. He's having some financial trouble. He won't say it outright, but I can tell. He's behind on rent. Had to sell his car. I leaned on the kitchen counter, jaw tight. Patrick, the golden boy, the one always flashing his success, was struggling? I won't lie. I felt a flicker of satisfaction. What's that got to do with me? I asked, calm as I could. Mom hesitated. You're doing well now, right? Maybe you could help him out? Just a little? He's your brother, Herbert. There it was. The old routine. Patrick makes a mess, and everyone else is expected to clean it up. I'm not giving him money, Mom, I said flat. He doesn't respect me. He's never cared about my life. Why should I bail him out? Because he's family, she said gently. And family helps each other. I wanted to shout. Instead, I just said, he can figure it out. He always does. Then I hung up before she could keep going. And that's when things really blew up. A week later, Patrick showed up at my office. No call, no warning. I was in a meeting with a client when my assistant poked her head in. There's a guy here to see you, she whispered. Says he's your brother? My heart dropped. I told her to give me 5 minutes to wrap up. But Patrick pushed past her anyway and walked straight in like he owned the place. Herbert, we need to talk, he said loud enough for half the office to hear. I was mortified. I quickly apologized to my client and dragged Patrick into the hallway. What the hell are you doing? I hissed. He stood there, arms crossed, looking like a mess. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair all out of sorts, nothing like his usual slick, put-together self. You're seriously just gonna ignore me while I'm going through all this, he snapped. Do you have any idea what I'm dealing with right now? No, I said, keeping my voice even. Because you've never cared to tell me. And barging into my office sure as hell isn't the way to start. He scoffed. Oh, please. Like you're so busy with your little landscaping business. Then he leaned in, that same old sneer on his face. Don't act like you're too good to help your own brother. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. It's not that I'm too good, Patrick. I'm just tired of being treated like I don't matter. I looked him dead in the eye. If you came here to apologize, we can talk. But if you're here to guilt trip me, you can turn around and leave. He stared at me like I just slapped him. For a split second, he looked almost lost. But then his face went cold. Fine, he said. If you want to play the self-righteous card, go ahead. Just don't come crying to me when you need help someday. And with that, he stormed out. Now here's where things got strange. A few days later, I got a call from one of Patrick's buddies, the same guy who'd laughed along with him at that family dinner when he made the poor one in the family crack. Let's call him Steven. Hey, Herbert, Steven said, his voice a little stiff, like he wasn't sure how to go about this. I heard about what's been going on between you and Patrick. Yeah, I said carefully. Why? Well, I don't know if he's told you, but he's in some pretty deep debt. Credit cards, payday loans, it's bad. He's been trying to keep it under wraps, but it's catching up to him. I didn't know what to say to that. Why was Steven telling me this? Was he trying to tug at my heartstrings too? Or was he genuinely trying to help? Thanks for letting me know, I said after a pause. But Patrick's problems aren't mine to fix. Steven sighed on the other end. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Just keep an eye on him, okay? He's not in a great place. I hung up, head spinning. What kind of mess had Patrick gotten himself into? And how bad was it gonna get? Final update. Patrick had always been the guy who landed on his feet. No matter how wild or careless he acted, things just worked out for him. He could charm his way out of trouble, talk teachers into giving him extensions, talk bosses into second chances. He used to joke, I've got 9 lives. And honestly, I think he believed it. But this time, I wasn't going to be a soft place to land. Not again. And for the first time in his life, Patrick was about to find out what it felt like to hit the ground with no one waiting to catch him. It started with a strange phone call from Mom about 2 weeks after Patrick barged into my office. I hadn't heard a word from him since, and truth be told, I figured he'd finally gotten the message. But then Mom called. Her voice was tight, worried. Herbert. Patrick's been acting strange, she said. How do you mean? I asked, already feeling a pit in my stomach. He's been calling me at all hours, asking for money. He even brought up selling some of my jewelry to help him out. She paused. I told him no, of course. But he's been desperate and angry. He's not acting like himself. I sighed, pressing my fingers into my temples. Mom, this isn't yours to fix. I know, she said quietly. But he's my son. I can't just sit back and watch him fall apart. I wanted to tell her that maybe she should. That maybe falling apart was the only way he'd finally learn. But I knew she wouldn't hear it. Patrick had always been her golden boy, no matter how much trouble he stirred up. And while I used to resent that growing up, how Mom always seemed to give him the benefit of the doubt, I kind of understood it now. She loved him, through all his flaws. Still, I wasn't going to step in. I was done playing the role of savior. Not after everything he'd done. Then Patrick hit a new low. A few days later, I was unloading supplies from the back of my truck when my phone buzzed. It was a text from him. Herbert, we need to talk. Please. That was it. No sarcasm, no guilt, just those words, and they felt heavier than they should have. Against my better judgment, I replied. What's going on? He answered right away. I need help. Part of me wanted to ignore him, to let him deal with the mess he'd made, just like I promised myself I would. But another part, the part that still cared, whether I wanted to or not, needed to know what was going on. So I called. His voice was rough when he picked up, worn down and sharp around the edges. I'm screwed, Herbert, he said. I've got creditors breathing down my neck. I'm months behind on rent, and I might lose my apartment. I've got nowhere else to turn. I didn't say anything. Just let the words hang there. Patrick, the one who always acted like he had life figured out, was finally admitting he didn't. And while some petty part of me wanted to say told you so, there was another part that just felt sad. Or maybe disappointed. What do you want me to do about it? I asked. I need a loan, he said, blunt as ever. Just enough to get me back on my feet. I'll pay you back. Promise. I almost laughed. Patrick, I said, you've spent years looking down on me, mocking my work, my business, everything I've built. And now you're asking me for money. There was a long pause on the other end. I'm desperate, Herbert, he said finally. I don't know what else to do. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard come out of his mouth. But it wasn't enough. I'm sorry, Patrick, I said. But I can't help you. Not this time. He didn't yell. Didn't argue. He just said, fine, and hung up. And for a second, I wondered, had I done the right thing? The fallout was messy. Next time I saw him was at Mom's place. She'd invited me for dinner. She hadn't said he'd be there, but I wasn't shocked when I walked in and saw him already sitting at the table. He looked awful. Tired, beat down. That usual slick confidence of his was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite name. Fear, maybe. Dinner started off stiff, with Mom trying to carry the conversation like nothing was wrong. Didn't last. So, Herbert, Patrick said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. How's the landscaping empire? Still raking in the big bucks? I set my fork down and looked him straight in the eye. It's going well, I said. Thanks for asking. He let out this bitter little laugh. Must be nice. Some of us aren't so lucky. Patrick, Mom said gently, putting a hand on his arm. Don't start. No, it's fine, I said, keeping my tone level. I get it. Patrick's mad because I didn't bail him out. But here's the thing. This isn't about luck. It's about choices. And you've made a lot of bad ones. The room went dead quiet. Patrick's face turned red, and for a second, I thought he might lose it. But instead, he just stood up, shoved his chair back, and walked out. Slammed the door behind him. That was the last time I saw Patrick in person. Over the next few months, I heard bits and pieces about him from Mom. He'd moved out of his apartment, sold most of his stuff, and was crashing on a friend's couch. That big fancy job? Gone. All those friends disappeared. It was like his whole world collapsed overnight. And yeah, part of me felt bad. But I also knew it wasn't on me to put the pieces back together. Patrick had spent years tearing me down, years treating me like I was less. And now, he was finally learning what it meant to stand in the mess he made. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Patrick. At first, I almost tossed it, figuring it'd be another plea for cash, or some half-hearted apology. But I opened it anyway, and what I read caught me off guard. Herbert, I don't know if you'll even read this, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. For everything. For how I treated you, for the things I said, for thinking I was better than you. I was wrong. You've always been the better man, and I see that now. Watching you build your life from the ground up, while I let mine fall apart, it's been humbling. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I don't blame you for cutting me off. But I wanted you to know I'm trying to change. Thank you for standing your ground. It was the wake-up call I needed. Patrick, I read that letter twice. Then I folded it back up and slid it into the envelope. I didn't know what to do with it, or how to feel really. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, Patrick was finally capable of change. I wasn't ready to let him back in. Not yet. But I knew deep down, this wasn't the end of the story. Maybe one day, we'd find our way back to being brothers again.